What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here for PackersNews.com, live on Facebook late Wednesday afternoon. We haven't heard from Mike McCarthy. We haven't heard from anybody in the locker room because everybody's gone. I'm here in New York, and I'm chilling in my back deck. But I thought I'd come and talk to you fine folks and see what's on your minds. Even though it's the bye week, I'm still here talking Packers with you fine folks. You know, they may take a break. They may get a week off. We don't, right? Because, you know, we know where it's at. Michael, what's up? How are you? So I thought I'd jump on here and, you know, see what's on everybody's minds. I mean, there's no set agenda here. There's not a whole lot to riff off of since there hasn't been any actual news. Hi, Gary. How are you? Ernest, what's up? But I know that people are always up for talking Packers, no matter if it's in the middle of the season or in the middle of the off season. Doesn't matter. Hey, Chris, what's up? John, how are you? Thanks for jumping on. BJ Raji could be Norman. It's a possibility. Why not? Let's get BJ Raji at quarterback. I heard Rodgers can start throwing in 6 weeks. True or what's up? Well, Devin, that's probably an aggressive, hopeful timeline. But oh, hey, look, I got an alert. Aaron Nagler is talking Packers at Facebook/PackersNews.com. There you go. Who knew? Still have hopes for a playoff run. So you're the one, Matthew. It's good to have you here. I'm glad to see you. What's up, Mike? How are you? Mike, how are you? Yes, Aaron. That's my name. Hi, Aaron. How are you? Thanks for joining another Aaron. Hundley throws for 280 yards and 3 TDs versus the Lions. Whew, that's awfully aggressive there, Chris. Are we going to win a game? Asked Jordan. I'm going to make a wild guess and say yes, the Packers will win at least one more game. And I'm truly hoping they do, because I just said in that last Facebook Live I did that I wasn't going to shave until they did. So my wife and children are suddenly really monster Packer fans. Thoughts on Odom and whether he'll see the field more at outside linebacker? Well, he got his most extensive action against the Saints, and early returns were pretty pedestrian. He didn't really do much of anything to really stand out in any kind of way. But like I said, it's his first action. It's his first extensive action. Possibly he sees more as the year goes on, but the early returns were, I won't even say mediocre. They were just they were pretty pedestrian. How about we lose out, John? It's a possibility. What do you expect to see? Short passing game? Yeah, I think just a little bit more creativity. I've posted a couple things on my Twitter account yesterday and early this morning, examples of the types of things I think we'll see more of from McCarthy going forward. I've said it a bunch of times in this past week, at least since the game happened. I don't think McCarthy trusts Hundley to throw downfield very much. If there's a single, defined read, such as in the Jordy shot play, fine. But for the most part, I think you're going to see a lot of horizontal, maybe even like throwback to a true West Coast style type stuff. But I do think he can be a little bit more creative. The play where it starts as a jet sweep and then gets Randall into the flat, I thought that was a really good call. There was another instance early in the second quarter where, they had, personnel-wise, they had 2 running backs, a tight end, and 2 wide receivers, but they came out, that's in the huddle, and then they came out, branched out into a 5-wide look with both running backs split out wide. That's taking advantage. We're going to pause here for station identification for the Amtrak train. That one's heading out of New York City. Hi, train. So that's the kind of creativity they're going to need. Things like that to take advantage of the defense at a time when they don't have the advantage of having Aaron Rodgers. I saw someone just commented, I'm sorry I missed the name, they don't have a chance with that defense. Yes and no. I think the defense has all of the same issues we've grown accustomed to, but I do think they can be an opportunistic one, much like we saw early on against Drew Brees. Now, we've also seen them be opportunistic in other ways the last couple weeks prior against Minnesota and against Dallas, where they had the tip drill, one going for a pick six, one for a big, kind of run back. These are the opportunities that they're going to need to take advantage of on offense. That's a game they win against the Saints if they just convert one of those turnovers into a score. That's what they're going to have to do, and stubbing their toe on 3rd and short is just not an option. They need to be able to extend drives, and they need to be able to get Brett Hundley into a rhythm. somehow, some way. Bring in Maxwell if the money's right. Tate, I highly doubt it. It's really not Ted Thompson's MO. I do think he'll get offers out there on the open market. I would never say never, but you look at all the communication errors and issues they have on defense already. Now you're going to bring in a guy who hasn't been in your system, has never run your system, hasn't gone through camp, hasn't gone through the offseason program, and you're going to ask him to play significant snaps. You're already dealing with guys running in and out and having to call timeouts and playing with 10 men on the field. You want to bring in a guy who's completely foreign and alien to the system? I don't think that's the idea. Barclay's release means Rodgers returns off IR. No, I think it just means they knew they could let him go because they have the talent in the backups, which was the whole reason he was there, was to be a backup offensive lineman. Well, they've had to play all of their backup offensive linemen, and they've seen for the most part that those guys can hold up. So there was really no reason to bring Barclay back. In fact, I saw my buddy Kyle Cousineau saying that Barclay was in Detroit today. So, it's a good possibility he possibly signs there. Leroy Butler, Hall of Fame this year? Dustin, man, every year he's not in is an absolute joke. I'm not holding my breath. What's up, Texas? Thanks for checking in. Mike, try Callahan. Well, it's not Madden, and they're not switching guys in and out willy-nilly. They've invested a whole lot of time into Brett Hundley, and they're going to give him every opportunity to run with this. Now, if he stubs his toe and is a problem going forward, it causes them to lose games, then maybe they look at Callahan. But look, that wasn't Brett Hundley didn't lose that game for them. That was a winnable game that the coaching staff, and specifically Mike McCarthy, kind of punted away on Sunday. A better coach would have won that game. So, I can't sit here and say, well, they've got to go to Callahan because Hundley has been so bad. Hundley did what was asked. It was clear he was asked not to take chances and turn the ball over and not lose the game for them, and he didn't. The interception at the end where he overthrows Martellus Bennett, they're down 2 scores, they've got no timeouts. You got to make something happen. You're not going to dink and dunk your way to a win there. So he went for it, and he got intercepted. It happens. Jerry Kramer, Hall of Fame. I'll tell you what, I spoke with Mr. Kramer this past weekend. I spoke with him Saturday morning for a project on the 50th anniversary of the Ice Bowl. And one of my co-workers, my colleagues, said, good luck in the Hall of Fame this year. And Jerry Kramer was the best. He said, look, we're just here to celebrate the Ice Bowl, the 67 team. This weekend I'm going to have a great time doing that. I'm not even thinking about the Hall of Fame. But I tell you what, if they call and I get in, we're going to tear the roof off the sucker. I thought that was a great quote. Typical McCarthy conservative approach. No, Daniel, that was anything but typical from Mike McCarthy on Sunday. That was a very different approach from Mike McCarthy. And also, I do love people saying the typical conservative McCarthy approach. When McCarthy is aggressive, people kill him for not being conservative enough. When he's conservative, people kill him for not being aggressive enough. He is truly one of the quintessential cannot win coaches. No matter what he does, play calling wise, people are upset and calling him out for it. Dom here, I have another slick defense to roll out after the bye that nobody understands how to play. That's good. Vince Beagle going to be playing soon, Greg? I would think he would get activated probably after the bye week. He started practicing last week. They have 21 days from his first practice to activate him. Maybe they hold him out one more week. But I tend to think, it's, here in the next 2 weeks, you will see him placed on the 53-man roster. Can the Packers get Patrick Peterson? Sure, if they offered something outlandish, but they're not going to. Is Brady Papinga going to be active this week? Nice. With difficulty of defensive scheme and they go so fast. I'm sorry, guys. Why are they not practicing until next week? Well, they have to have 4 days off. That includes a Saturday. So maybe they could have got a Tuesday practice in, but that doesn't really get you much. I can't kill McCarthy for allowing these guys to get away from it and get their bodies right. I mean, you've seen the injury reports. They're like 10, 12, 15 guys long. Let them get away from it. Let them heal up. Come back on Tuesday. Hit the ground running. Hundley's staying in town for the entire week. He's going to be in Green Bay throughout. Undoubtedly, he'll be working with the coaches. But you're not going to get much of anything done that you need to get done for a couple 7-on-7 drills. Passing against air, which is essentially what you're going to do. You're not going to have a competitive period in a non-padded practice. They only get 14 padded practices for the entire season. You're not going to blow one of them during a bye week. There's a lot of restraints there, and I know the Cowboys did it last week, et cetera, et cetera. Very different team, very different circumstances. Like I said, I can't kill McCarthy for that. Playoffs. I just hope we can win another game. Nice. Who is this year's Dorliant? The guy Ted will activate to shut the door on Rodgers. I don't know. I would never even begin to speculate. Although I did think they would bring back Barkley and Spriggs, and then people would lose their collective minds because that meant Rodgers couldn't come back. We beat the Cowboys. You are with the pack, win or lose. Okay. Name an aggressive, ballsy play McCarthy called last game. End of the first half. Everyone was killing him for it. He called 4 verticals. And actually, Cobb is open on the 4 verts. Before the play that knocked them out where Rodgers was blocking up to the left side and Hundley threw it away, thereby meaning they got a penalty, knocked him back to a 59-yard field goal. That's missed, etc. Leaves Drew Brees 1 second on the clock. Everyone's losing their minds on Twitter. 2 plays before that, though, second and long, McCarthy calls 4 verticals. And my entire Twitter feed blew up with, oh, you just need a couple yards to get into field goal range, et cetera, et cetera. That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. That's a ballsy call. It calls 4 verticals to try and get into the end zone right before the half. And again, if you look at the tape, Cobb beats his man. If Hundley just waits like a tick or two longer, he's got him over the middle. It's a game of inches. That's what they say. And as I told everybody on Twitter, if they score a touchdown there, everyone's cheering and everyone's having an amazing time and everyone's going, oh my God, what a call. But it didn't, and people killed him for it. It's a lot of, hindsight criticism that is really not worth much. What is going on with the poor communication in the defensive secondary? Well, mostly, it's a combination of 2 factors. It's, the absence of Morgan Burnett the last 2 games has really hurt them. And he went down in the Cowboys game, the other time they had 10 men on the field, which resulted in a 25-yard run from Ezekiel Elliott. And then 2 is all the injuries back there. You've got guys going down, going in and out of the lineup. Devon House is in, then he's out. King is hurt, and then he's back in. Oh, my helicopter's here. So, you throw all that together, and you've got a complete mishmash of guys going in and out, and we're supposed to be the big Okie now. No, we're not supposed to be base. No, we're supposed to be this. We're supposed to be that. And eventually, you're doing that every single play. Somebody's going to miss something. And I get that substitution patterns are part of it. Substituting is part of the game. Matchups is a big part of the game. But I don't look around the league and see a lot of other teams dealing with this. Mostly because a lot of other teams set their depth chart. We've got our starting safeties, we've got our starting corners, we've got our nickel corner, and then we work from there. The Packers have all these different combinations of, you can't even tell who's the nickel corner. Demarius Randall plays their star position, which is traditionally in the slot. He's there a lot, especially when House and King are lined up outside. But then they've got all these other kind of designations that they run in and out, and it's just mass confusion. And you see guys looking around pre-snap, 1 or 2 seconds before the ball is snapped, looking at whoever, wondering what the call is. On the big Ted Ginn catch, where he gets 40 yards upfield, Kentrell Bryce is motioning to Demarius Randall to move over. That's not Kentrell Bryce's job. That should be, most likely, Clinton Dix's job, to line guys up. But everyone's discombobulated and running all over the place, and no one knows anything, and it's a mess, man. And like I asked McCarthy this week at his press conference on Monday afternoon, I said, isn't it incumbent upon you, the head coach, to tell your defensive coordinator, hey, you got to simplify this stuff a little bit. But, I think as obvious as it may be that he needs to do that, they're going to continue down the road of specialization, and I think that's going to continue to bite them. Do I use that gas grill? In the summer, yes. I also have a little mini charcoal one, but let me tell you, when you're cooking for 300 girls and they want it right now, They ain't waiting for no charcoal. Lack of vertical will mean opposing Ds will crowd the box. Absolutely, they will. You'll see it more and more. If they can't threaten them vertically, which I don't think they'll be able to, you got the combination of receivers who, let's face it, aren't exactly burners, and you've got a quarterback who they know the play caller isn't asking to push the ball downfield. Dare to call me during this. So, you put that together, maybe they can get downfield on a free play now and then, like we saw against the Saints early in the game when they got A.J. Klein to jump off sides. But for the most part, yeah, I think you are going to see guys kind of creep up. You're going to have to prove that you can beat them on the outside, do something on the perimeter, or you're going to have to see a lot of crossing routes, a lot of pick plays, and things like that to work guys open, because that's going to hurt Aaron Jones as well. They're going to crowd that box. They're going to dare Hundley and McCarthy to beat them deep on the perimeter, and I'm not convinced that they can do that. Who will become Hundley's go-to guy? That's a good question, Peter. Really hard to say after that first outing, right? I mean, Martellus Bennett was your leading receiver with 2 catches and 17 yards, I think it was. Just relax, Doctor says Rodgers can throw in 6 weeks. I love how everyone just takes that as gospel. You guys realize Rodgers isn't coming back, right? You guys all realize that, right? All right, just making sure we're all on the same page. Any news from Mike Daniels' brother's workout? David, no, nothing. I know they worked him out. That's about all I know. Which would indicate they just wanted to take a look. But it doesn't sound like a signing is imminent. Packers played well in the first half. They played better than the Saints. I wouldn't exactly go so far as to say they played well. I think they played well enough, but it's not going to cut it, and they got to do it for 4 quarters. Oh, who's texting me now? What's up with letting Barkley go and signing McCaffrey? Well, Barkley, I think it was just a matter of they found that they had some young guys who could do just as well as Barkley could, so they didn't really need to keep him around. As far as McCaffrey, they liked him during camp. He was excellent during camp, but he got caught in a numbers crunch, so they let him go. And once he got released by the Jaguars, they figured bring him back to the practice squad. It makes sense. The guy caught everything. He's a good route runner. He doesn't have speed, though, so that's the one thing they desperately need. So I wouldn't see him getting put up onto the 53 unless someone gets injured, but it's not a problem. Someone asking, is Allison regressing? I don't think so. I think he just hasn't had much of an opportunity. It's hard to crack that top 3. You got Nelson, Cobb, and Adams in front of you. His number hasn't been called a whole lot. He hasn't had a whole lot of playing time. And now, he's going to probably be playing even less, because I would expect to see a lot more 2 tight end, a lot more 2 back tight end, 2 wide receiver sets, which limits his opportunities. Dolphins and who was the other team win without their starting quarterback? Packers look awful. I just don't get it. I would remind you of how awful the Dolphins looked last year without their starting quarterback. And you look at the Vikings, they absolutely have catered their offense to Case Keenum in a way that McCarthy tried to on Sunday. But it's not like they're asking Keenum to go downfield. But I think they're a little bit more liberal with what they've asked Keenum to do. Now, that said, Keenum's also had starting experience in the NFL. Sunday was literally Brett Hundley's first start ever. So there's a bit of a difference there. But we'll see. I mean, the point is, I get the point. I think it's a good one. Other teams can and do adjust, and the Packers have got to do it. We all know what happened in 2013. They were absolutely abysmal until Matt Flynn came and kind of steadied things. But yeah, McCarthy, you can't sit there all last week and berate people and talk to us about how you've got 3 years invested in this guy, and then turn around and design a game plan which hides your quarterback. Well, then what am I supposed to think? Like I said on the radio this morning in Milwaukee, it tells me you don't trust your quarterback. So, either show me that you trust your quarterback, or stop talking to me like I'm a child and telling me how you got 3 years invested in a guy if that doesn't mean anything. Is Nitro hurting us? That's a really good question. I think Nitro is a lot less effective when Morgan Burnett is not on the field, and I think that's why they've had problems with it these last 2 weeks. As soon as Burnett went down, you'll notice they started rupturing some runs. Josh Jones, as explosive and Exciting as he can be at times, especially when he gets in space and is allowed to take on a guy one-on-one, maybe rushing the quarterback or take on a back out of the backfield. In those situations, when he's in the middle there and gets caught in the wash, these guards and the centers and stuff, they're getting up on him, and he's just got nothing. Like, Morgan's done a really good job of figuring out angles and how to get around guys and get through the wash and make plays, where with Jones, he's still swimming. You can tell. As soon as, like, maybe a trap play or some kind of power run comes right at him, it's over. And the screens that the Saints were throwing at the Packers early in that game really, I won't say confused him, because I think he read it fine. He just didn't know how to beat it. He would get out there on the perimeter, and some guard or center would just take him and just wash him right out, like, without any resistance whatsoever. As he gets more experience, he'll be able to learn. He'll know, he'll see it, he'll recognize it, he'll diagnose it, and he'll be able to kind of knife through and make a play. But, right now, I think without Morgan Burnett, the Nitro is a liability. Browns change QBs every other week. Looks like it works great. Oh, that's funny. How about Mario Williams? He has done good every year except last. Would he be worth a low price risk? I would work him out. There's no doubt about that. But there's a reason he's still on the street. Guy's heart just isn't in it. He's been collecting paychecks for the last 3 years or so. It just. And then the other thing is, how much do you play him? I can't imagine, at this point of the year, he's going to come in, he's got to learn the whole new scheme. And I get you can tell him just go get quarterback on third down, but then you're taking up a whole roster spot for the guy, a guy who's not going to play special teams, to come in and play maybe 10, 12 snaps a game. I mean, maybe if he agreed to a veterans minimum, but I don't see him doing that. I found it interesting that the Seahawks signed Dwight Freeney yesterday. That's a guy. He and Elvis Dumervil were the guys all summer I said, the Packers should take a look at. I figured they would never look at Freeney, but it just makes sense that John Schneider would, because that's the kind of GM Schneider is. Raji, and AJ Hawk. Thank you, Justin. Guy's heart is not in it. Yep, Rick Shrine does that to people. Is Beagle a future starter? Oh, Joshua, I couldn't even begin to answer that question. I need to see him on an NFL football field going up against NFL talent before even beginning to make that determination. And we've literally seen him for part of a rookie camp practice. And that's it. We have not seen him step 1 foot on a field against NFL competition yet. So I can't even begin to tell you. Do you think they regret putting Hill on the practice team? I mean, I think you mean cutting Hill and then allowing him to be signed by New Orleans. I get people were excited by Taysom Hill, and I get that he made some big plays with his legs. But, making plays with your legs in 3rd and 4th preseason games against 3rd and 4th stringers, that doesn't mean you're a quarterback in the NFL. I think he's a huge project. I don't think the Packers regret it much at all. Elliot Wolf, possible future Green Bay general manager? Possible, Derek. I tend to think he's a bit young. I would lean probably more towards, if, say, Ted Thompson were to walk away next year, the year after, I think it would come down to Elliott, maybe Russ Ball, maybe an outside candidate. Only Mark Murphy knows for sure. Is Beagle an outside linebacker? Yes, Will, he is. Do the Packers make the playoffs? Oof, Robbie. Right now I say no. But ask me again next week. Or 2 weeks. Is Nagler a future GM? Yeah, maybe in my Madden franchise. Did I miss an update on Montrevious? Nope. Just a healthy scratch. Just chilling. Lions game is a huge one. I think Hundley somewhat rights the ship. Yeah, and I don't think... Here's the thing. I don't think a lot of it is on Brett Hundley. I think Hundley did what he was asked to do on Sunday against the Saints. He just wasn't asked to do much. I think everyone else around him, including the head coach, needs to step up their game. But yeah, I can't kill Hundley for his performance against the Saints. What happened to the GM that left KC? He was a Green Bay guy. Yeah, John Dorsey. Last I read, I think he is still out there. Maybe he got a consulting gig, but I'm not sure. But Dorsey would definitely be a possibility. There's no doubt about that. Why not Ripkowski on 3rd and 1? Yeah, well, we went through the John Kuhn fullback dive phase there for years, and some were successful and some were not. funnily enough, I don't think Ripkowski has had a very good year. He definitely hasn't had a great year blocking. But they haven't given him the ball much this year. They obviously gave it to him a bunch last year, but for whatever reason, they have shied away from that this season. 3rd and 1, like McCarthy said, he was fine with the calls. I wasn't a fan of either one of those 3rd and 1 calls early on, but, they execute. We're not talking about it. They got to execute. Now, would Ripkowski be a better option? I would much prefer Ripkowski up the middle, like say through the A gap on a fullback dive, than I would that off tackle play to the left. I hated that call. I didn't love the RPO, the run pass option, the one that Adams that got kind of broken up, or actually it looked like he just dropped it. It would have been tackled short of the sticks anyway. I didn't love that one, but I really hated the play where you've gone 9 yards on the ground up the A gap, and now all of a sudden you're going to run 5-8 yards outside to get 1 yard. I hate that play. You agree with people that say Aaron Rodgers saves the coaching staff. I mean, Aaron Rodgers saves everybody in that organization. I talked to a guy who's worked there for a long time this summer, and he said, if it wasn't for Aaron, we'd all have been fired a long time ago. And I think that's the truth. That's what having a franchise quarterback will do for you. I mean, you look around the league, we all know that Belichick is the one caveat. Belichick is the one guy who, his franchise quarterback went down, Matt Castle comes in, they go 11 and whatever, and almost, they don't make the playoffs, but they had a winning record, and they should have probably made the playoffs. But more often than not, your guy goes down, you don't make the playoffs. I mean, especially if he goes down early in the season. Now, there's always going to be exceptions, etc., but for the most part, that's the way it works. And if that happens for an extended period of time, then you lose your job. Do you see a defensive system / coaching change in the future? It's a good question. Last year, I was of the opinion that Dom had been given short shrift when it came to the personnel that he was handed. And it didn't help that Sam Shields went down in week 1 and really blew up their cornerback depth chart. This year, I think this is much more of Capers making. He knew exactly what type of, kind of squad he had coming into the season. He came up with a nitro package to try and shore up some of their deficiencies in the passing game, and for the most part, through the first part of the season, he did that. They really improved as far as giving up plays on 3rd and long. That was something that killed them all last year, and they greatly improved in that area. However, when teams are still able to convert in crunch time, when you still need that stop desperately late in the game, they're almost always coming up short. We've seen it time and time again. So it's hard for me to sit back and say, okay, now you just got to wait for Josh Jones and Kevin King to mature. And you're always waiting for something with Capers. So, with McCarthy on 1 more year on his deal, I would tend to think probably Capers is 1 more year on his deal. It would be very surprising if McCarthy let Capers go, knowing he's only got 1 year left. I tend to think they're going to ride this thing together. Anything's possible, but I don't see anything immediate, even if the season goes south. Bring back Sam Shields. Yeah, Lloyd, that's not going to happen. We just got to play our best. Christopher's all over it. What do you see for Ty? Jones is the real deal. I think Ty will be used intermittently. I think more so on 3rd down. Maybe he has a change of pace every once in a while, but I don't see him getting, even splitting carries anytime soon. I think it's Aaron Jones' job. Ted's contract is up next year. His contract is up after the 2018 draft. So throughout the season, then the draft, then he's done. Unless he gets an extension, which is always possible. I'm never giving up with the Packers. Good for you, Kyle. That's a good mindset. Thoughts on them possibly bringing in Carriage? Yeah, Eric, I put it out there, earlier today, that they worked him out on Monday. I really liked him in camp. I thought he had a really good chance of making the team before he got hurt. I think they were just kind of seeing where he was, more so than having an intent to sign him. But you never know. Maybe they bring him in. I'm not sure why they would do that at this point, since unless maybe they're thinking, the thinking would be we're going to get more buttoned up, we're going to run more power, and we want another fullback on this squad. But I don't see anything imminent there. Rodgers should draft for us and coach. Yeah, if you want to be like, 6-10 every year, that'd be great. Pack all day, win or lose, back to pack. I hear you, Jess. TT doesn't get an extension. I know most Packer fans are probably with you on that one. Think Mike gets an extension? Joshua, I don't know, man. It's that's what I mean. It's so kind of such a weird spot right now because look, you got to think this year this offseason they give Rodgers an extension, right? This summer. He's got 2 years left on his deal, but they got to get him locked up sooner rather than later. Or else it's only going to get more expensive as they go. So once they do that, then, the question becomes, what do they do with McCarthy and or Thompson? Now, if Thompson walks away and a new GM comes in, does the new GM then say, look, I want to bring in my own coach? Well, that's it for Mike McCarthy. Or if Thompson sticks around and gets an extension, does he extend McCarthy? Or does he say, oh, I think it's time that we go in another direction? There's just so many things. Now, I don't think that happens. I doubt that happens, actually. But it's a possibility. It's one you got to entertain. So, I don't know, this next 12, 17 months or so, it's going to be very interesting in Green Bay. Why don't we see more 2 tight end sets with all the talent and depth we have at tight end? Well, because they have a lot of talent at wide receiver, too. Someone asking earlier about why Geronimo Allison hasn't seen more opportunities. I mean, only so much you can do. And they did do, and they've had this habit of coming out with 2 tight end sets early in the game and then kind of getting away from it as the game goes on. I would, posit that they should be getting to more 2 tight end stuff throughout the game. And they did do a little bit of it later on when they brought Rodgers in for like 6 plays or so, but I don't think it's ever going to be a staple of their offense. It's never going to be their base. But I do agree they could use a little bit more of it. Future for Ty. Justin, I mentioned a little while ago, but I do think he'll be still involved in the offense. He's an asset. He's a talented player. I thought the way they used him in the 3rd series against New Orleans was perfect. Maybe it was the 4th series where the first play of that series they come out with both Ty and Jones, and then they had Bennett and then Adams and Nelson. So you're looking in the huddle as a defender. The defensive coordinator certainly did, because he looked at that and said, okay, I'm going to go with my base defense. It's 3 linebackers, 4 down linemen, etc. Well, then out of the huddle, the Packers go 5 wide, and they have Jones and Montgomery on the perimeters like wide receivers. And I think that's how you use Ty. You use him as kind of like a queen in chess. You can use him. He can move any which way. And defensive coordinators have really now got to kind of guess as to how they think the Packers are going to use him. So I don't think Montgomery gets used a lot, but I think in a lot of ways he can become kind of a problem matchup wise. And even when he's not getting on the ball, on that particular play, the one I'm just talking about, he did get it out on the perimeter and he gained 9 yards on 1st down. That's a huge win for an offense. But I don't think you can do that every play. And also, I think he will spell Aaron Jones from time to time when Jones needs a breather, but I don't think you can take Aaron Jones off the field for extended periods of time. I think he's clearly their best back. Hi, Joan. You've arrived just in time for me to leave. Thanks a lot, everyone. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to your questions. They do come in fast and furious. I'll be back tomorrow, so make sure you check back, probably at the same time, late in the afternoon. In the meantime, make sure you're checking out PackersNews.com for all the latest. We'll have everything up throughout the bye week. Not a ton going on, but if and when it does, we'll be all over it. In the meantime, make sure you're checking all of that. You can watch this replay. It'll be up at PackersNews.com a little bit later. Otherwise, have a great night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks a lot, everyone.